What up, you guys? I hope you're doing well. We're here for our weekly anchor message where we are taking a look at this week's spiritual assignments. So, coming from the wild unknown archetypes, we've got the mother, we've got the empty room, and we've got the starborn. Underneath the mother, we've got the fool. Underneath empty room, we've got temperance. And then underneath starborn, we've got 3 of Pentacles. All right, so the mother card. This is a symbol of a source of nourishment, a source of love, a source of comfort. This is the kind of source that can be nurturing when in its positive side, and it can inspire us to expand our wings and to grow and to go and succeed. But if the mother is dark, it can be smothering, and it can cling to the baby birds and not want them to leave the nest. And so we could end up with crippled wings, right? If the mother influence is too heavy or too attached or too dark. Now, it's interesting to me that this is paired with the fool. The fool here is on their journey on a new path. There is like a crocodile here that poses a threat that is camouflaged in the scenery. So this is like a hidden threat that we're not necessarily aware of. In the traditional tarot, the fool has got his knapsack and he's just dancing haphazardly close to the edge of a cliff. So in a way, like the fool in its highest form kind of represents that innocent trust that like an infant would have, where you don't have a bunch of preconceived notions or a bunch of baggage. In fact, the fool is only depicted carrying a knapsack, and it's for a reason, right? They didn't decide to have this guy walking along with nothing, right? They wanted us to pay attention to the baggage, to what he carries. And what he carries is light, it's minimal. He doesn't have a big bag with him, right? As he's journeying on his way. So it seems to me that there is some sort of new source of support available or coming soon. Maybe we are setting out to look for a new source of support and nutrients and nurturing and provision and protection and care, right? Maybe there's a new source of love or a new influence of love coming to your life. Maybe you have new job opportunities coming in, or maybe you've decided to go seek new job opportunities. Maybe it's that you are renewing your relationship to source in a new way and you are strengthening your faith, because the fool has that faith where they believe that they're going to be taken care of. And so that's one reason why they're like dancing so close to the edge, right? They are feeling so protected that they're not overly vigilant about looking around over their shoulder. So in a way, this can be positive. It can be that certainty in creator that gives us lightness of heart and lightness of foot to go through life with levity rather than heaviness. And I know like the times are heavy right now. I mean, everything around us is just full of chaos and stress, it seems like. You know, we've got inflation, we've got the cost of living going up and the income gap not closing the gap, right? We've got people who have food insecurity out there. We've got people who are living paycheck to paycheck and barely getting by. We've got all kinds of political just extravaganzas and unrest and tension right now. And then on top of that, there's like wars going on around the world that are extreme enough on their own. And so there's so much that can just weigh us down right now and cause us to feel nothing but suffering and stress and fear and doubt. And it's more serious than people think, because you never know how the people who seem like they're doing okay on the surface may not be. I had a friend, I found out that an old friend of mine recently ended his own life. And this is not the kind of person that you would ever guess that would happen to. And this person was, seemingly okay. And surrounded by friends, huge friend group, smart and funny and a good time. And so you just never know how hard it is out there. And that's why we can't really rely on our own substance and our own strength, right? We have to connect to something that is more powerful than us, greater than us, right? Because there is really no certainty in this material world. There really isn't. And even God works in mysterious ways and we don't always understand. But I can tell you for myself that in the times when I'm feeling the most stress and the most alone and the most uncertain, the only thing that makes me feel better, the only thing that can shift my consciousness in that moment is to pray. Is to connect with God and connect with Jesus and connect with my angels and get myself right again, at least level, right? Because if you go through your day getting stuck down in that quagmire, then chaos just starts piling up and we cut ourselves off from that connection with the light because we aren't in affinity with the light. Then we become weighed down by our fears and our lack and our doubt and our uncertainty. And then we start feeling reactive, and then our thoughts start going out of control, and then our emotions start going out of control, and it spirals and it spirals and it spirals. I keep having the Pistis Sophia come to mind recently, and I didn't get to finish that gospel, and I want to go back and read it again. And I actually want to do a series where we do this together, the Pistis Sophia together, like we do Secret Teachings of Jesus. And so I thought about doing a Patreon, and that might be something that I do for the Patreon. And you guys let me know if you would be interested if I started a Patreon. I'm trying to get this YouTube channel monetized so that I can work less and make more content that won't cost anyone anything, because then I would be paid from the ad money, but it requires followers and it requires people liking videos and commenting, and it requires watch hours. So I can't produce those out of thin air, and at this point, like, I'm literally out of minutes of the day to make more content. So I something's got to give somewhere. So if you guys would be interested in a Patreon, let me know, chime in, tell me what you think. So Patreon is a platform, if you don't know, where like creators can create content, and they can either have people pay subscriptions or they can pay for individual pieces of content. So back at it. So the Pistis Sophia, what happens is the goddess wisdom, Sophia, sees the light that is above her. It's like this form of light that is in the realms of the mysteries. It's very abstract. So it's hard to explain it if you don't have any context of the rest of the writing. So in the mysteries that are beyond this physical existence, Sophia, the goddess Sophia, was up in the worlds up there, and she was excited and impressed by the light, or an expression of the light that was higher than her, and she wanted to become more like that light, and she wanted to give and do the things that light did. But she reached further beyond her capacity, and it caused her to fall. And so she fell into the darkness, and the rulers and the demonic principalities, or whatever they are called, these other creatures that are malicious and dark, captured her and took her down into the darkness, and they were holding her there. And she kept crying out for God to come get her, but she was so deep in the depths that like God couldn't go there because there was no affinity, no vibrational affinity would allow the light to get in. So it was like she was trapped there and calling out for help. And in the meantime, cross cut to Jesus. Jesus is trying to like go through these different avenues and go through these different portals and talk to these different beings to try to get her out of the clutches of darkness. And so it was every bit as much up to Sophia to lift her own spirits high enough where she could be reached, where she could reach the light again. And so in Job, it talks about we will be lifted up by the cleanness of our hands. And it talks about something being separated by a cloud. But basically the suggestion was that when we're in this low state and this low vibration, we can't connect to the light because the light is up here and it's not changing. It's not affected, right? The light is cause. So the vessel is the thing that changes. And the vessel, to some degree, we have to clean our hands in order to reconnect with the light. So we have to keep our vibration and our mindset and our consciousness in that realm of light in order to stay there. So that source, right, keeps us at least that base level where we can reach higher and get that help when we need it. But sometimes we get down so dark and so low that it seems impossible to get ourselves back out. But there's always hope, right? And it is a matter of shifting your perception and like a determination of literally brainwashing yourself into a different state of being. Like sometimes you just have to try to find that way, to just brainwash yourself to think differently and to decide to train yourself in a delusional manner. If you have to fake it until you make it, to practice getting out of that darkness. But it is so much easier if you find yourself getting there, right? To be preventative, right? This is like preventative healthcare. This is like wellness rather than prescription after the fact. So the Fool, on the path, on a new path, on a new journey, starting over, new beginning, a new beginning with our connection to a source of what? It can be material, right? It can be a new source of income. It can be a new source of support. It can be a new connection with God. It can be, oh, I found a temple or a group of people that I connect with or a church that I vibe with or whatever it is. But there's a new opportunity to start on a new path. And so the danger here is if you cling to the old, we can't go to our next level. And jumping timelines like we did this spring, this year, it's like we're being invited into our next level. And it's like even when we start to elevate and expand, it's like we get new levels of soul, new soul starts to come in. And so we can't have the new soul and the new level if we are still clinging to the old self. And so many things we're letting go of and we're shedding and we're embracing a new path, right? So that can be something that's going on in your intrinsic realm on the inside that has to do with your heart and your mind and your soul, but it can also be reflected in your outer world as well. But remember, the danger here is not moving forward and staying where you are at the detriment of your growth, right? You can't remember the dark mother who doesn't let her babies fly out of the nest and they're crippled, right? So we want to be aware of that as we're moving forward and doing it with courage, because sometimes that's really scary. Change is scary, even good changes, right? When you go start a new job, there's nerves. even if it's one you've waited for your whole life. It's like, especially there's nerves, then it's scary. You know, when you go off to college and you're in a new situation that's unfamiliar and you don't know the people, like that's scary, but it's going to be exciting. It's going to be good, right? So many things, you know, and we enter these different life phases all the time. And, you know, only really major ones are talked about, but there's so many subtle new phases that we enter into all the time. And we're not consciously aware of it. And so those changes are scary too. And those transitions require a moment of reflection and maybe even grief of the old passing away. And it's like we're in such a hurry and we're so disconnected from ourselves that in these modern times, it's like we can't even recognize it when it's happening. And so we've got this like low level terror and this existential dread going on all the time. And we're like, what is happening? Like, why do I feel this way? Right? And it's because we're just disconnected from the nuances of ourself and our life and the phases that are happening, and just giving ourselves the space and the compassion to be able to process it all. So I think people are starting to come more around to it. They're starting to realize it more, but it's still difficult when the demands of life just get higher and higher. Things just go faster and faster. So it's so important to take time, you know, in ways that you can connect with yourself and become self-realized and self-reflect. And I'm going to say it again because I've been saying it. I say it all the time. To Be Magnetic is a great structured system that I love so much. Basically, if you don't know what it is and you haven't heard me talk about it before, but To Be Magnetic is a website that was founded by, it's a company founded by Lacy Phillips. And she basically was able to curate all of the legitimate manifestation aspects together with the ultimate highlights of self-help, healing, and growth. It's like she knew instinctually, or she was led by God to grab the things that are making the biggest difference, put it into a unified structure of self-help, journaling, self-therapy, self-hypnosis, meditations, using neuroplasticity, using the like rewriting the nervous system and rewriting the subconscious. And so it's like this supercharged way to have therapy, but like almost even go deeper and get even more honest with yourself, and go into these meditations that help you rewrite your subconscious to where you tap into those limiting beliefs that you don't even realize are there, that are lurking below the surface, and they come out. And so it's so hard to just sit down and do that, to know where to start. You know, automatic writing is very good for that, where you just sit down and you start writing and you don't stop and you don't edit yourself. You just set a timer and you just keep going. And that's a way to pour it all out. And there are other ways, but that particular system is set up so well. And there are different workshops for each of the major categories and phases of life, or at least like phases like an up level or a rock bottom, or if you're in a rut, right? And then there's like relationship, like unblocking your love life, unblocking your inner child, unblocking your shadow, unblocking money. And then they have like a couple of times a year, they'll have a big like community-wide challenge that everybody's doing together. So right now, like through the end of the summer, we are in the major unblocking challenge of the year, where you are discovering your main block, the main subconscious block or belief pattern that you have that's holding you back from manifesting like the major things in your life that you want to manifest. So that is a membership site. You are kind of locked in for the whole year, but I've never regretted it. It's always been worth it. And if you use my link below, you can get a 15% off discount. I think that their big summer sale is over, but if you use my link, you can still get the discount, and then I get spare change from your membership. So throw me a bone if you randomly decide to join To Be Magnetic. Please come back to any one of my videos and look in the description box and use my link, because I have been talking about this for years. Okay, so having that structure is so helpful to be able to move through these passages of time and self-reflect and self-realize. Okay, so the next card is the empty room. Now, this is like the void here. This is the empty space that we need to create in order for new things to come in. And this is a space that feels very uncomfortable to sit in when it's usually filled with, all kinds of things, right? And sometimes people can't even sit, like literally if you were like, can you go in an empty room and sit by yourself in the quiet with like no phone, just like no distraction, no music or anything. And like some people would find that absolutely horrifying and terrifying. So part of it is just being able to sit in this space where we're not the next version of ourselves yet. We're not the old version. And we've been letting go of a lot of things. Probably that Capricorn full moon brought up a lot of stuff that you were releasing. And so the universe loves to fill a void, and we love to fill it too. So the challenge here is to leave this space for the universe to send your higher destiny in to fill it, rather than us taking reactive action and rushing to fill the space because we're uncomfortable and we've got, I don't know what to do with this space. I need something there, right? If you've ever like gotten rid of a piece of furniture and then there's just like this weird gap in the room and you're like, and you're tempted to just put anything there, but you're like, no, we have to curate something special for that spot. Same kind of thing. We're waiting for the next special thing to come in. We're waiting for the universe to bring us that thing for the next level. And it doesn't mean we're completely passive. We might be getting guidance to take action toward that thing, but you don't want to get in a panic and just grab whatever will work for the moment, because once the space is filled, the universe doesn't have a space to put something in, right? It's like a parking spot. You can't park 2 cars in one spot. So leave the space, leave that room open. The void is very potent with potential. It is raw, unformed dynamism, just waiting to come through. So it's a very powerful space to learn how to tolerate and to navigate and to allow for, to let things come in. And so I love this Temperance card. It's different than any of the other Temperance cards I've ever seen. And I love it because this woman, it has its whole another layer of meaning that I don't ever see in the other Temperance cards. Temperance is about integrating and bringing that spiritual and that material together. So it's like taking that spiritual wisdom and that soul growth and then applying that, bringing that into our physical life, right? Temperance is about taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and mixing it together into a new thing, right? So it would be like husband and wife coming together and making one unit. That would be an example. Or like merging 2 companies and becoming one company or something like that. Or merging your talents and skills to start some kind of new venture. That, you've got like all these skills and all this know-how, and then you're like putting it all together to start a new thing. This could be taking your life experience and putting it into a book or to poetry or to art. But this is about integrating those life lessons and the wisdom and the discernment and all of the other things that have come along with that experience and putting it into action. Now, what makes this card specifically unique is that I find the art to speak to me more so than anything else about the Temperance card here. This woman is sitting in stillness in that empty room space, and she's in quiet, and she's in peace, and she is in calm. And here we have the doves representing that peace and even the guidance of the Holy Spirit, right? But the influence of peace is over her. You can see she's very tranquil. And I like the way that this umbrella is over her. It's giving her cover, right? And that umbrella is red and it's full of passion. And it's our passion and desire, right? That are the vessel that the light has come through, right? Because if we don't have passion, if we don't have desire, then we don't have a will to act, right? Think about when you're like so stressed out and like kind of depressed, or even if it's just that kind of one day depression that comes on where you're just like, oh, I'm feeling lightly depressed today, and you're not motivated because you're just so overwhelmed with fear and stress and feeling so futile, right? So she is tranquil, and she's covered. She is protected, and there is love covers her, right? Love and vitality and the blood of Christ, right? So many times in the Bible, when there's an element of scarlet that is required in like a cleansing ritual or something like that, it represents the blood of sacrifice. So she is sheltered, covered by the blood of the Christ. The Holy Spirit is with her, and she is open, right? She has her palms open. And what I've noticed about these birds is that one seems to be coming and one seems to be going, and she's not holding on to the birds, and she's not trying to like coax them in. She's just sitting here, and they're coming and going as the Spirit wills it, right? So think about that when we're thinking about the new coming in and the old self, the old version of self, whatever that might be. It's like we're releasing the things that are no longer in alignment with our path, and we're allowing the things that are in alignment to come in, but it's not through force. It's not through a reactive action, right? Because source is the cause, not the effect. So when we are in a reactive state, we're in effect consciousness, and we're not sharing affinity with the light, right? Which causes us to separate from the light and separate from the protection and the blessing from the bosom of the wing of the Creator, right? But when we are in cause consciousness, we are in possession of our feelings and our thoughts. And even though they might be going wild inside and you might be feeling like total chaos, you still have enough self-control to pause and not make any impulsive choices, decisions, actions, say or do things that you can't take back. You know, you don't want to live in fear without a backbone, right? But we also want to be very wise and discerning and very purposeful when we choose to use our voice to speak out or to speak up. So she is sitting and she is waiting and she is calm and she is a divine feminine in that seated state of rest and silence and receiving. And it's not like she's trying to force anything to happen, right? When we're in the masculine energy, that's when we're taking action. That's when we're doing. That's when we're giving, sharing. We're talking, and we're not listening, right? We are doing and making things happen. But you can't be in the masculine state at the same time as you are in the feminine, right? So the feminine is the dark and fertile soil that receives the seed, right? That's nutrient, that gives the space for that seed to sprout. The womb, right? It receives and grows and nurtures something. And the stillness here, there's the divine supernal feminine trait is silence. It's listening. It's receiving, right? It's not forcing action. It's able to sit and rest and wait and be brought to. The queen, right? When we watch movies and we learn about royalty, the queen never reaches for anything. The servants are happy to present. It's an honor to give to the queen. So get out of the way. The ladies from the court are here and they're going to present the queen, right? So it's that energy of allowing what is coming, but it's not time yet. We're in the empty room right now, and we have to sit in that discomfort of just not knowing for now. But answers will be coming soon, but we need to tune into that source to be able to hear them clearly, because we won't be able to hear over the noise of the panic inside, or the biases, or the desires or our hunger or our desperation. So that's why it's important to get yourself calm and into that neutral state so that you can actually connect with source and get that real guidance, and you won't be fooled by ego tricks that are using defense mechanisms and survival mechanisms to push the animalistic fleshy agenda. Now we've got the Starborn here that talks about our unique destiny and purpose in this life. And then we've got the Three of Pentacles here, which is about pieces coming together for like the next phase of success or completion. So it's like we've gotten the materials and now it's all beginning to take shape. And we're not fully there yet, but we're off to a good start. So the biggest standout detail of the Three of Pentacles is that you're beginning to master your skills. You have know-how, you have skills, you have talent, and you're starting to build something with it, but it just hasn't produced a lot of fruit yet. But people are beginning to recognize, oh, I see the value in this. I want to actually work with this person. So this could be the beginning stages of starting to become recognized for your good works, for your talent, for whatever it is that you have inside of you uniquely, that you're uniquely, cut out for. Someone can see your unique value and they want to work with it, or they value it and they see the good in it. And so this could be collaborators coming in. This could be like new friends, new love interests, but mostly the pentacles have to do with our like physical, like material well-being, and a lot of it to do with money and work and like the way that we would use like our crafts, right? A craftsman's skills to say, start up a cobbler shop and like repair shoes, right? This would be like, oh, I like that cobbler. I'm going to go take my shoes to him. Or I want to be in business with that cobbler. I'm going to be next door mending people's dresses while they're mending the boots. This is like the 1800s again. So being recognized through your skills, people wanting to work with you, people valuing that. And so if you're like looking for, like, if you're just like applying for your dream job or something like that, and you're like looking for work, this is a good sign to just sit tight. Like the right thing is going to come that's meant for you, and they're going to see your value, and they're going to see your talent, and they're going to want to work with you. If this is like new love coming in, it's like someone like a partner that would see your value and they would want to build with you, right? These people are like building together. So it's like someone who's like maybe on your path, fated on your path, who's like, wow, I see this person. I really see their value. I really see their uniqueness. And like, I want to go forward. I want to build something together with them. Now, the way that when I was writing this post earlier in the day, the main image that came to mind to me was I was like flashing back to set. I used to work in TV and film and video production. And so there was one show that I worked on. It was a narrative show. That means that there's a script and it's got a story and there's props and there's sets. It's not like a reality show. So I was on this narrative show, and we had a huge soundstage, and we had a big studio, and there was like a big mansion built inside the soundstage, right? That was like the character's mansion. And there were all these other sets that were like the other characters' apartments. And so we would have a scene going on, right? And all the crew and everybody that's like, the first team and all the important people were crowded around the monitors, and they were into the scene. And the actors were in the scene, and they were so in the scene that you wouldn't realize that there's another 100 people running around behind the scenes. And so what would be going on while those people were in their scene, while those actors were in their scene, the ADs, the assistant directors, there's like one main assistant director that's like keeping up with the schedule, but then there's like a whole team of assistant directors that their job is to like keep up with certain actors and keep up with certain departments and make sure that like, okay, the lights are getting staged for this next scene, and we were going to need these props, and we're going to need these actors just in a moment. So we've got to have them on standby. And so these people are running around, going to the makeup trailer, making sure that the next person is going to their makeup trailer when they need to. And it's on a very rigid schedule. So the actors can't think about that when they're in the scene. They have to be present in the moment completely. They can't worry about what's going on behind the scenes. However, even though it seems like just this one scene is going on, and the power that they have is more, it's like they're more powerful as actors when they're completely engulfed in the present moment, and they're not thinking about the future, they're not thinking about the past, they're not thinking about anything outside of this scene. They're completely lending themselves to it. Meanwhile, the parts and pieces are being moved, and there are actors, there are new people, there are new players on standby that are ready to walk in at the director's cue, right? So we don't know it, but we're in the scene right now. This is our scene, and we are present. We're being asked to stay present. Stop worrying about everything else. Let the assistant directors bring the next people on that are going to enter the scene. We don't have to worry about that. The character doesn't know that the neighbor is going to come knocking on the door, so we don't know to anticipate that. If we did know to anticipate that, we'd be out of character and we wouldn't be in the scene anymore. We would be the actor, not the character. So there's another thing here, is that the actors have to trust the director. They have to have a combination of trusting their own instincts and showing up and doing that and performing according to their own instincts, but they take the direction from the director. And they cannot stop the scene until the director calls cut. Even if that actor makes a mistake, it would be highly unprofessional for them to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up. Because what if you just kept going and you had so much juicy stuff that came from that? What if that prompted some other emotions out of the other actor? What if you were able to recover and then go even deeper into the scene, right? That you may have stammered over that line, but there could be the pages that follow could play out so well because you're already in the moment and you're already in it. So it would be such a waste and such a mistake to think, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, sorry, can we start over? No, you keep going. You keep going and you trust the director until the director calls cut. And you don't cue the background extras and you don't cue the bird until the director says, cue the bird. It's now. This is the moment. This is the moment that makes it poignant and pivotal. I was out in the woods the other day and I was looking for a sign. And I was like, God, I need a sign. I need a sign that love is coming and that I'm not going to be alone forever. And I look over and something catches my eye in the tree. And it was like a squirrel. And I mean, like, squirrels are squirrels, right? Like, big deal, a squirrel. But for some reason, I was really intrigued and I wanted to get a better look at the squirrel. Something that just drew me to it. And I looked and the squirrel was all cute. And it was kind of leaning over. And I was like, well, isn't that squirrel cute? The way it's all perched over, kind of hanging out on that little branch. And then I looked closer and it was the two squirrels were snuggling. They were in a moment snuggling together, in a moment of pure affection. They were just hanging out in a cuddle. And I was like, oh my God. And I tried to get my phone out to take a video or a picture of these snuggling squirrels, and they got scared and they ran away. But just moments later, I started to walk down the trail again, and it was as if Steven Spielberg was and cue the owl. And it was this owl swooped down and it flew right in the middle of the pathway and then went off into the trees. And it was if you had a frame and you were a filmmaker, I see everything in terms of filmmaking and oh my God, that was so awesome. It was left the frame perfectly, but it was Steven Spielberg was cue the owl. And it was the perfect moment. And I was was that a trained owl? It was crazy. But for me, owls are a sign that I always ask for. It's always an owl because you don't see them that much. And boy, have they been prevalent. There was one the other night right outside of my door in the tree in the front of my front yard. And it was it was so loud. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I opened the door and there he was. And then after we had a moment together, it was like, all right. And it just like flew off. So back to the actors. So the actors can't cut until the director says cut, right? So we have to trust the director. We can't take it upon ourselves to make assumptions right now. We can follow our instincts, and we can follow our instincts that are leading us in the right direction of what feels right until the director's like, no, not working. Let's do something else. So trust that the scene is being prepared, that the actors, the next characters coming in are being staged, the props that you will need, the scenic, the scenes, the sets, the furniture, it's all going to be there. The lighting is getting set up, right? Lunch is being prepared. You don't have to worry about anything. Just stay in the present moment, because that is where your power is. It's in the power of now by Eckhart Tolle. Power's in the present moment. So take heart. Things are rough. Things can be hard, but things can change in a moment. So I hope this helps. I hope we, have a good week. I know I watched the Channy Nichols sort of like astrological forecast for this week, and there's a lot of aspects happening. I'm not equipped to talk about them all. There's a lot up in the air. It's a dicey week. So do your best to just try to be in grace through it, and try not to do anything crazy or rash or impulsive. And we'll see what happens at the end of the week, and trust in the divine director, and trust in our spirit team and the Adjustment Bureau. I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie. One last little thing. The Adjustment Bureau is a movie from, I think, like the early 2000s, and it depicts like the fates behind the scenes, like cutting through like buildings and stuff, trying to move things into place so that these people align with their destiny. It's kind of a neat concept like that. But all right, y'all, that is all for tonight. I will see you tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle reading. Bye. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, then please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to be notified of when I drop content. Like the videos, comment, share them. Anything that you do helps these messages get out to other people who need them. So you watching a video and taking an action on it actually makes a positive difference in someone else's life.